how hopeful are you that this peace deal will work out, like as a human,
On what?
on a human level, not as the President of the United States? How hopeful are you that this peace deal will work out with Iran?
You're talking about to end it? Well, I think we're going to end it. I can't tell you for sure. I don't like to say this. We've won this. This war has been won. The only one that likes to keep it going is the fake news. I mean, the New York Times, you read the New York Times, it's like we're not winning a war where they have no Navy and they have no Air Force and they have no nothing. And we literally have planes flying over Tehran and other parts of their country. They can't do a thing about it. For instance, if I want to take down that power plant, that very big, powerful power plant, they can't do a thing about it. It's like, take me. That's all they can do. And yet, if you read the New York Times or if you watch ABC fake news or NBC fake news, you'd say it's a close battle. It's not a close battle. They're totally defeated. We killed their Navy in, would you say 3 days, Pete? Gone. In fact, I was a little upset with Pete. I said, why didn't you save the ships? We could have used them, right? He said, it's more fun shooting them down. But the Navy was wiped out in a very rapid order. Pretty impressive for you guys, you champion wrestlers, right? When you hear this stuff. But if you read the news, you don't hear this. You read like, oh, they're doing wonderfully. They're doing terribly. They're wiped out militarily. They are dead.
Hello, Bobby Jones here for MeidasTouch and Valor Media Network, in for Ken Harbaugh this week. So please, someone tell me, is this what winning looks like? Is this what true victory looks like? President Donald John Trump this past week has gone on record multiple times saying that the United States has won the war with Iran. The United States has won the war despite the fact that gas prices are at an all-time high, despite the fact that we have not one, but 2 Marine Expeditionary Units headed towards the Middle East right now, and despite the fact that we have another aircraft carrier in the George H.W. Bush and the command element of the 82nd Airborne en route to the Middle East. Never mind that the actual brigade combat team is on hot standby. So if you have already won this war, then why are literally thousands of troops headed to the Middle East with a $200 billion request for funding sitting on Congress's door? I don't know if you're old enough to remember if you're watching this video, but we've seen this before. I was a young junior officer in the Navy when President George W. Bush famously landed on an aircraft carrier and said, mission accomplished, at the beginning of the Iraq War. Literally decades later, we look back at that as one of the biggest strategic mistakes in American history. And that is only to be supplanted by what we're seeing now, because I know President Trump said that we get tired of winning when he came in office, but this is amazing. Let's count the ways that we're winning. We're winning because apparently our closest allies, NATO, to include the United Kingdom and France, wanted no parts of this conflict, and that the NATO nations, for the most part, have stayed the heck away. Now, the French and the British are cobbling together something to try to keep the Strait of Hormuz open, but let's not get it twisted. Canada, along with other countries, stood on business this past week saying we need a new world order where the middle powers have autonomy and do not have to rely on the United States. I guess that's winning. I guess victory looks like dismantling a sophisticated air defense system, a THAAD battery on the Korean Peninsula where you actually have a nuclear threat, and moving it to the Middle East because you're basically getting overwhelmed by the amount of missiles that your intel community told you Iran had, but you chose to do this anyway. I guess victory looks like throwing your Secretary of Defense, although he deserves it, under the bus because everything is going woefully sideways, to include the economy that you care about so much. Victory looks like easing sanctions on the enemy that you're actually bombing because you're so terrified about energy prices falling back on you. Victory apparently looks like every cooperative nation, every partner nation that you have in the Middle East being attacked relentlessly by an Iranian force that supposedly has no army, no navy, no air force. But then when you turn on the TV, you see Jerusalem and the old city being hit. You see Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia getting hit in vital infrastructure areas, to include American military bases. But I guess that's what victory looks like. I guess winning looks like over 290 casualties of Americans, to include double digits now in actual killed in action. That's winning. And now, instead of dealing with these harsh realities, you try to ban the press from dignified transfer services. You try to ban the press from coming into the Pentagon, but you get overruled by that. And so now you just set up trailers so they still can't go in the building unless escorted. Because that's victory. Censorship during a time of war. All of these things to say that winning has been harsh on the American psyche, and we haven't even gotten started.
This episode is brought to you by Pocket Hose, the world's #1 expandable hose. Look, I've wrestled with enough old school garden hoses to last a lifetime. The kinking, the tangling, dragging 50 feet of heavy rubber around the yard. The Pocket Hose Copperhead is a completely different experience. The Copperhead's pocket pivot swivels 360 degrees at the spigot, so you get full water flow and total freedom to water all around your home without fighting the hose. And when you're done, this rust-proof anti-burst hose shrinks back down to pocket size, no winding, no coiling, no hassle. It's super light, ultra durable, and backed with a 10-year warranty. I'll be honest, I didn't think an expandable hose could hold up, but this thing has changed the way I think about yard work. For a limited time, my listeners can get a free pocket pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size Copperhead hose. Just text Ken to 64,000. That's KEN to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with a purchase. Ken to 64,000. Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details.
Now, I said all of that to set the stage for this question. If America and Israel are truly victorious, if they have truly won this conflict, what does the peace look like? Let's not forget, this all started when President Trump came into the White House his first term and ripped up the nuclear deal struck by the Obama administration in Iran. And we're hearing everything about tactics, invasion plans, going through the straits, taking over Carg Island. But I can tell you what I'm not hearing. I am not hearing what a post-conflict Middle East looks like. What does victory look like? Will everybody agree on what that is? What does Iran say victory looks like from their perspective? These are hard questions, but the United States has not given one inkling of what winning looks like. Is it just militarily where you destroy their conventional forces? Okay. What about the political ramifications? What about the terrorist cells that have been activated? What about the unlocated enriched uranium, which is one of the many reasons you said you did this in the first place? How are you going to ensure that the peace is maintained? And I ask this question because while you're saying you have won, this marks 2 times in the last year the United States was engaged in negotiations with Iran, only for Iran to be bombed in the middle of the negotiation. And each time it looked like an agreement was about to be had, Israel convinces the United States to go and bomb Iran. That is literally what happened with Operation Midnight Hammer, and is what's happening with Operation Epic Fury. By the way, these titles of these operations, it's like a screenwriter reject from a B-list Hollywood movie was making these. It's horrible. But along those lines, the rhetoric is something from a 1980s action film too, To watch Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, sit there and say the things that he's saying regarding the winning of American forces, many of them could be considered war crimes. No quarters given. Well, quarters supposed to be given. Check the Geneva Conventions that you as an actual soldier were supposed to know, and you sure as hell should know as Secretary of Defense. All of these things where we're sitting there being told that we're winning, but yet Israel is censoring what comes out of their area. Iran is censoring what comes out of their area. The United States is trying to censor its own press corps. It's a lot of he said, she said. And the only person that is literally saying that we're winning is Donald John Trump. Every economic analyst, every military analyst that I have seen are saying not only are we not winning, we could very well be losing. And so with all of these troops headed to the area right now, America's kicking the door 911 force. The question is, why is the price so high if we've already won?
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.